Okay, fine. So we start with the recording right now. And this is the agenda for today. First, there's the welcome introduction, of course. Then we are going to have the presentations of our invited presenters. So we start from micro and go to macro. So the first one is going to be a presentation mainly by Gabrièu Pelisson, if I pronounce it right, and also by Maria Cucliciu. I try my best. They're going to introduce themselves a little bit later on as well and can correct the pronunciation. These are social media influencers, and they are going to tell about their experiences and good practices. Maria is also having the workshop later on this afternoon. Then we are having some members of Yen.
Von der Jelske Dijkstra, die da den Vortrag beim Mercator gehalten hat.
Okay. Yes, from Yen, we've got here Christoph Graf and Vera Buranits. Yen is a roof organization for youth organization in dealing with regional and minority languages. And they are also member of Rise Up. And then last but not least, there is Jelske Dijkstra from Mercator. And Mercator is working on a European international level. And she's also presenting the work of Mercator and good practices. So then we are going to have a 15 minutes break. And then we've got 3 parallel workshops or sessions, which are taking place in breakout groups, breakout rooms, and we will explain how this works right before the start. Then after those workshops, we've got summaries in the plenary, and last but not least, some announcements and closings. So I briefly want to present Rise Up very, very much in a nutshell for those who don't know it yet. So Rise Up is a European project within the Horizon Europe, which is the research framework program from the European Union. And we are 8 partners. And the main aim for Rise Up is to support minority languages or minority language communities, to be precise, to interconnect the communities, and one part is also to create a digital toolkit. I won't go into detail now about the project goals, because you can all read them. It's very much about, it's also about language policies. It's about promoting the network. It's very much about networking, to promote the network between language community groups, and to help them through guidelines, methodologies, and to give also a platform for exchange. And yeah. So we've selected 5 language communities, which are our case studies, or study communities, or however you want to call them. The first one is Aranese, which is spoken mainly in the very north of Spain, in the Pyrenees, but also a little bit in southern southern France. Then we've got a Romanian, Vlach, which is very splattered in the Balkan area. Then we've got Burgenland Croatian, where the main community is in Austria. And then there is Cornish, And last but not least, Seto, which is spoken in Estonia and a little bit in Russia as well. So, okay, that's too fast. So I want to give the floor now to the presenters. And I would like to ask Gabrièu to start with his presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a little question. How much time do you have exactly?
15 minutes, I think,
15 minutes?
if I remember.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much. I'm going to try to share my screen. So entire screen allow. Do you see something?
Yes.
Okay.
We see your screen. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I'm really happy to have this presentation. And this will be a very brief presentation about what I do, why I do it, and how I decided to create videos in my minoritized language, which is Occitan. So briefly, who am I? I am what people call the heritage speaker. So there are multiple definitions of it. So technically, a heritage speaker is someone who has learned a language by being exposed to it at home. So people who never learn it formally at school. But it's not entirely false in my case, but that's not exactly true, because the language was present, Occitan language was present in my family, but it has never been the main language. The main language in my family have always been French, and I've always felt Occitan because people in my family used to speak a little bit of Occitan. They used expressions. They were able to speak a little bit, but that was not the main language of communication. So that's why I consider myself a heritage speaker, according to Valdés, who says that for those who are interested in strengthening indigenous languages, a heritage language refers to a language with which we have a personal connection. And in this case, in my case, it is the historical and personal connection to the language that is salient, and not the proficiency of individual. So in my case, I decided to relearn properly the language, because I was able to understand it, to speak it a little bit, but that was not the language I knew best. So what is Occitan? Briefly, Occitan is mostly spoken in southern France, but it's also spoken in Italy, Monaco, and the Spanish state in Catalonia. There are 6 big dialects. I am personally speaking a very specific dialect of Provençal. It's the dark blue side of the map. I'm speaking Nisant, which is the Occitan dialect spoken in the city of Nice and the areas. So the political status of the Occitan language depends a lot on the countries where it is spoken. In Spain, it has the best political status because thanks to the Catalan government, it is official in all Catalonia. So technically it's spoken just in the north, but it is possible technically to have documents in Occitan everywhere in Catalonia. In Italy, the situation is a bit less interesting, let's say, for the language, but some municipalities can request to use Occitan in the fields of education and the media. But of course, Italian remains the only official language in the constitution. And in France, country I'm living it's considered what they call a regional language. So it is considered a language that is part of history of France, something that's part of culture, but it is not recognized officially, and we do not have any language right for Occitan as for any other regional language of the French Republic. So the situation in France is pretty well known for people interested in minoritized language in Europe, because France is a really centralized state which has been built around French language. So everything that was not French language was considered what they called patois. So this is the official definition of patois according to Diderot in l'Encyclopédie, which is one of the biggest book of the Enlightenment period. And they consider patois as a carved idiom as it is spoken in almost all the provinces. And they add that the language is only spoken in Paris, which is really, really typical from the French idea of minoritized language. And it is still the main idea in France. A lot of people who do not speak a minoritized language still think that Occitan, Breton, Corse are corrupted languages, corrupted dialects. They're not proper languages. And of course, it has a really strong impact on the policies that are implemented for or against those languages, and of course about the perception of people, both people who are not speaking those languages and people who are speaking those languages. Because when you were at school and you heard that your language was not a real language, of course you don't feel that comfortable with it. So this is a very nice explanation of that, saying that we have the high and real language that is standard French, used in administration, the media, teaching, and the low languages, just like Occitan, were just dialects used for orality, informal context, and this kind of thing. So of course creates a big diglossia. And what we see here, I will talk really briefly about that, is that people are less and less speaking in minoritized language in France. And the more we get in years, the more we see that people speak those languages more occasionally than usually. That is to say that even when you speak this language, just like Occitan, you almost never speak Occitan as your first language. It's your second or third language, which is, I think, really sad, but really true, because it's really difficult to speak in Occitan or any other minoritized language if you do not seek to do it in your life. So with everything of that, how did I become a content creator? So this is me. I'm Gabrièu Pelisson. I was born in Nice in 1998, so I'm currently 25. As I said, my family used to speak Nisart Occitan, especially the father of my grandmother. It was his mother tongue, so he was basically speaking all the time in Occitan. And this left a trace. People in my family still have some knowledge of the language, but that was never the main language. So I had this very difficult time when I was 15, 16 to tell myself, okay, I am Occitan because my family is Occitan. I was born in an Occitan territory, so I must be able to speak Occitan, right? And that was not the case. So I felt something really hard into myself, something like I felt empty in a way. So I decided when I was 16 to do what was lacking. So first of all, taking back the language for me, learning the language properly, showing my Occitanity with my phone, with my name that I Occitanized, with my way of living. So I decided to live more in Occitan, so to meet people speaking Occitan, to obviously speak in Occitan in front of people so that they understand that I am Occitan and this exists for me. And a very important thing in this process was to create in Occitan, because we have a lot of interesting initiatives in Occitan, but they're often linked to history and something linked to the past. So Occitan had this image, this public image of something past, and I wanted to put it back into the present and the future. So I decided to do a little movie in Occitan, all in Occitan, without any explanation, I just decided to do what I could have done in French, but in Occitan, the language I also considered mine. So that was in 2017. And after that, during the pandemic, I decided to create my own YouTube channel called Parpalium Blau, meaning blue butterfly, where I just happen to speak about a diversity of topics in Occitan. But it's really important for me to remember that to recall that I'm doing this in Occitan, but not necessarily about Occitan. I want to be known as a Occitan content creator, not as a content creator in Occitan. This is really important. I do this in Occitan because I consider it my language, but I don't want to be, I want Occitan to be a normal language, just a tool to speak and not always the object of speaking. So I do a great variety of projects with interviews, with threads about this. In the left was for Halloween, the story of Halloween, how it became a great tradition in Ireland, and how it arrived in Occitanie and Europe. I also made a video about winter traditions in Occitan countries. So with all the dialects of the Occitan language, I had 9 guests to make people hear the diversity of the Occitan dialects and the different kind of traditions they had. So that was really interesting to have everyone in a single video. And I also do games, and typically all the kind of videos I could have done in French, but I decided to do them in Occitan. So this is according to me, one of my best videos. And this illustrates perfectly what I'm saying, because it's a story about a sailor, a British sailor, you maybe know, who was called Donald Crowhurst, who decided to do a world tour, but without being able to really navigate. So this is a really tragic story, but a really, really passionating and interesting story I decided to tell people in 3 episodes of 20 minutes. And
Gabrièu, you have 2 more
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And I was really happy with that video because that's my favorite, and it really worked in the Occitan world because I was interviewed about that one. So with this, I'm also trying to make a diversity of actions in Occitan, not always about Occitan, but in Occitan. So I'm currently working with a web television to create a new program in Occitan for them. And I'm trying to have an Instagram account where this part is more the language part of my work. It's about presenting the language for people who do not really know it. So to conclude my presentation, we'll just say that my aim for the future is to re-socialize the language, to make Occitan a real language again for people not speaking it. Because a lot of people still think that Occitan is a traditional language, something that can never be used to speak about any other thing than Occitan itself. And my job with my YouTube channels and every content I'm creating is to show that Occitan is a language, a present language, and something that I hope will be living in the future. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you very, very much. It was very interesting. I would like, I hope you stay until before the coffee break, because maybe we've got, I don't know, it's gonna be quite tight in this first phase. But we're gonna give you his email address later on, so if you have some direct questions to Gabrièu, he will be happy to answer them. I also want to ask Maria for very briefly introduce her social media project, because she's going to have the workshop afterwards.
Yeah, hello, my name is Maria Cucliciu Crăciun. I'm from the Armân or Vlah or Armenian community from Romania. It's a non-kin state minority. We're not recognized in Romania, and that raises a lot of issues. And I want to thank Gabrièu for his presentation, because I found myself in a lot of what he said about learning the language. I also learned it a bit late. And in the project he made, we also have, like, I'm not a, let's say, solo act. I'm part of an organization, and we have a lot of projects in order to sustain the preserving and continuity of languages. And I think that the most important project in social media right now is a podcast that we're having in order for people to know that our language can be used in day-to-day life. And it's not a language that was once spoken and now needs to be dead, and that they can use it regardless of the topics that we're talking about. It's not just for folk music or, I don't know, folk poetry or stuff like that. We're talking about household chores or things that are old. You can use it also to talk about engineering. You can use it to talk about social media. You can use it to talk about architecture. You can use it in any way you want. And that is what we're trying to show with our weekly podcasts. So we'll talk more about this at the workshop.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maria. So I want to pass the micro now to Christoph, who is giving us a presentation about the work of Yen.
Thank you. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Christoph. I'm from the board of Yen. I'm vice president for external relations, and I'm living in Berlin. And I'm kind of from the Sorbian minority in Germany, which is also a non-kin state minority, which is in the east of Germany, like in Lusatia, in the states of Brandenburg and Saxony. We are also quite endangered, especially the language which is spoken in Brandenburg. There are different dialects. There's Lower Sorbian and Upper Sorbian. And yeah, that's kind of my background. In my personal life, I have a law degree and work in the field of renewable energy law. Yeah, then Yen. Yeah, what is Yen, or what is the youth of European nationalities, in German Jugend europäischer Volksgruppen? Yeah, Yen is an umbrella organization and a network of young people. And yeah, it's a network for young people, by young people. That's maybe important to say, between the ages 16 and 30s. And we are kind of covering all national, ethnic, linguistic, and autochthonous minorities in Europe. Yeah, here can have kind of some pictures. I think it's important to say that Yen is kind of youth-led. We have a board which consists of 7 people: the president, vice president for external relations, that's me, vice president for internal relations. We have a treasurer, and then we have our working groups with conveners for communication, minority rights and politics, and member integration. Kind of member integration is kind of focusing on our organizations. Communication is all about kind of, yeah, getting our message out, and kind of minority rights and politics is focusing on policies and advocacy. Here you can see some pictures from our last General Assembly, which is held hybrid. Yeah, Yen was founded in 1984 in Denmark and Kniesberg. We have 41 member organizations in 80 countries. You can see the map of it. We focus on non-kin state minorities and kin state minorities, so both. And we are non-governmental and non-profit, and our office is in Berlin. Yeah, here's the board. The main job of the board is kind of to work on a work plan for each year. Kind of this year's topic is kind of activism. So kind of sustainable activism. So it's when it comes to mental health, yeah, everything kind of to kind of have a sustainable impact in advocacy and in activism. And for that, we kind of we meet each year kind of to prepare our work plan. Our last topic was traditions, which is also very important for minorities in general to kind of keep their identity. Yeah, what's kind of our goals are, I think when it comes to minoritized language, it's a lot about empowerment. Kind of, it's, I think, it's maybe very basic, but often it's very important to simply empower people to even speak their minoritized language, which is often not so easy for young people because they are kind of afraid or they are kind of not so sure about their identity. So it's a lot of kind of empowerment, which is kind of quite central in our work. And for that, we kind of try to kind of show them ways to kind of make their voices heard. We will present you some best practices on that. And otherwise, we are kind of focusing on the protection of minority rights and try to kind of help kind of to kind of, yeah, establish cooperation between the minority organizations or minority youth organizations in Europe. When it comes to empowerment, it's maybe also important to kind of have a network of people from our other minorities in Europe where you can learn from, where you can share your experiences and also your challenges. And that's kind of also, yeah, for the empowerment, kind of to speak your minoritarian language, very important. And our last goal is kind of raising awareness towards the majority population and kind of promote the issues and knowledge of minorities. Yeah, our kind of main activities, seminars or kind of best practices also are mainly our kind of our seminars, which are kind of held 3 times a year with a special topic. Like this year is all about sustainable activism. And right now, I think Jenny wants also to join from the office. Maybe you can introduce yourself, and then will Jenny from the office of Vienna elaborate on our activities and seminars, and later I will kind of finish the topic. Yeah, thank you for now.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Hopefully, yes.
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Jenny. I'm working for Yen as a project manager, so combining the work of Rise Up with the work of Yen. And as we said, Yen is a partner of Rise Up. So the point of my work is to make sure that young people's voices are heard in the project duration. So yes, I'm also very thankful to Christoph for presenting the work of Yen so that we can spread the word a bit more about the projects and work that we do. Yeah, so in terms of activities and seminars, Yen has roughly 4 large events every year, and we call these seminars, even though they do take the base of workshops, I would say, with trainers. And we have an Easter seminar in the spring. We have a kickoff and an autumn seminar. One is at the start of the year and one is in the autumn. And in the summer, normally every second year, we have the Diversity Festival, which is more of a celebration of creativity as well. So bringing together young people from minority backgrounds and also running various workshops at the same time with different kind of creative outputs to various themes. So to the themes of Yen, like what happens is, I mean, as Christoph says, Yen is a youth-led and youth-organized organization. So the board are responsible for taking the decision as to what happens in the year and how they would like the events to look like. So apart from our seminars that we have a discussion about a work plan. And this means that the young people from the board choose the theme of the year. So as Christoph said, this year it is about self-care because activism and self-care is a very important topic that needs to be focused on. And last year, for example, we also had the theme of traditions, which is also an extremely important tradition for minority youth and also for languages. And I wanted to just mention a few other projects that we had. Christoph will also talk about like the other organizations that we kind of work alongside and partner with, but we do have some specific initiatives that happened in the last years. For example, if you can see on the presentation, we have Minority My Say. This was a campaign which was launched in 2019 and carried on for a little longer after this. And it came out of a list of demands that were written by participants in the seminar about speaking up and talking about your rights and what you wish for Europe. So this then became a kind of Instagram campaign and also a calendar, and it kind of went into many different routes, and it voiced the young people's desires and demands like on this topic. The demands were then actually spoken into the discourse in the European parliamentary elections. And if Christoph moves on to the next slide, we also had a campaign which was called Voices of Europe. So this is like a very long campaign. It went on for almost 20 years, also before our time, but I would like to mention it because it's a really beautiful project. And it was an initiative for participants to come together, and one organization or minority youth organization every year from Jen's network would take part in a week-long project where they performed songs in their minority language. And at the end of the week, the songs of the minority language would be performed in the form of a choir. So this gave the audience an opportunity to hear like minority language choirs and songs and musics from traditions which they may not be familiar with. And it was also a way for young people to network with each other, hear each other's voices, and once again, as we always do at Yen, address the topic of traditions, which is very important to us. Yeah, we also have many more initiatives and projects which you can see on our website. I could talk for quite a long time, but I will hand back to Christoph to talk through the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of our work is also kind of about spreading the voices of minority youth. We published a book about youth-led projects, so best practices from our member organizations, which they did in their minorities towards their own youth. And our most recent booklet we published is Minority Youth in Europe, A State of Play, which is trying to, it was more about calling attention to the long-standing challenges faced by minority youth, and provides also an insight into the issues that minority youth has in its in the states, in their states. And it's more also about the daily life and the mechanisms behind it. And the report offers a perspective on minority youth, not only to non-minority members, but also to minority organizations themselves. And the hope is to have a broader dialogue on the minority youth rights. So it's best practices, but also challenges, to have an overview about minority rights in general in Europe, and then the real mechanisms behind it, what challenges minority youth is facing in Europe in general. Another way to spread the voices of minorities youth is our Jens Day, which is on Instagram and Facebook, where we publish or try to publish each week some basic fact about a minority from our network. This project was quite, you can say, successful because it's very interactive. Each from our member organizations can hand in informations or facts about the minority, and that's also a very well trained mechanism or best practice to share also knowledge about minorities within kind of minorities, so that kind of, yeah, that also our network is learning from each other. And at the same time, it's also kind of a good way to spread facts to the majority about minority youth in general.
Christoph, you have 2 more minutes.
Yeah, like I said, we are supporting our member organizations and with a special focus on youth participation. And then the YEN is also part of the European Youth Forum, where we also kind of share topics from minority youth to other youth organizations in general. Like Jenny already said, 2024 is all about activism, but our most important kind of event is kind of our anniversary. YEN turns 30, so who wants to join is very happy and welcomed. So if you have any questions, you can ask us. So some self-promotion is, I think, okay. Yeah, I think that's kind of also an overview about our advocacy. That's our partners. Kind of most important, I think, is also kind of to focus on the Roma youth, like we have cooperations with Firman, Amensa, and Turner P, and also with the European Union of Jewish Students, and otherwise, of course, with FUN. I think that's it from my side. If you want to stay in touch, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. You can write to us and also check out our website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both. I think who is going to make the workshop for afterwards, after the break?
It will be Vera, and I will be there as well.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So you can also get into closer touch with Yen in the workshop afterwards. And now I would like to invite Jelske for her presentation, please.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Christoph and Jenny, for that interesting workshop. I used to be a member of one of your member organizations, FIC, and I still remember the Voices of Europe, yeah, that old conferences, very nice. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Mercator European Research Center and its works. Let's first try to introduce myself, if that works. Do you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Let me share it. I think I need to do it this way. Yes, my name is Jelske Dijkstra. Since January, I'm the project manager of the Mercator European Research Center for Multilingualism and Language Learning. Well, I will explain to you what the Mercator does in a couple of minutes. Mercator is part of the Frisian Academy, or Friese Academie, which is a research center focusing on Frisian. My specialties are early bilingual language development. I did a speech and language therapy training, and also studied language, general linguistics, but also speech technology. Somehow I cannot manage. Yes. As I said, Mercator is part of the Frisian Academy. The Frisian Academy is founded in 1938, and it has its mission to conduct fundamental and applied research on the Frisian case. And we do that from international and multidisciplinary perspective. And the focus here is on the Frisian language, multilingual society. Here comes the work of Mercator. The regional history from international framework, minority languages and cultures, also work of Mercator, and development of digital infrastructures. And on the pictures you see our beautiful building and one of the most beautiful rooms within this building. It's a building from the 17th century. 18th century. The Frisian Academy is also liaised to the Royal Netherlands Academy of Arts and Sciences, and this kind of gives its presence in the academic world. The Frisian Academy has developed a research agenda in which 3 research areas are most important: heritage and history and heritage, language and multilingualism, and the people and their environment. And here are the 7 research teams within the Frisian Academy, and the work of Mercator falls under the research team of the Multilingual Society. So Mercator is a special branch within the Frisian Academy. It's here mainly applied research is conducted, and our mission is to acquire, study, disseminate and apply knowledge on multilingualism and language learning, and mainly regarding the regional and minority languages in Europe. But we also take into account the migrant languages, especially when the migrant languages within the areas where a minority language is spoken, and of course the smaller state languages. The Mercator network, the predecessor of the Mercator European Research Center was Mercator Education, which was part of the Mercator network, which consisted of 3 institutes. The other 2 were CIMAN of the University of Barcelona, where it was called Mercator Legislation, focusing on research on language policy, and the 3rd one was Mercator Media of the University of Aberystwyth, focusing on media, of course. Since like 2016, the network funding stopped. The organizations are still part of the Mercator network, but we operate now under the flag of Mercator European Research Center, since we still have funding from the province of Friesland. The network has since then expanded to a research institute for linguistics in Budapest, Hungary, and also the Institute for Slavic and Baltic Languages, Finnish, Dutch and German of the University of Stockholm. And together they still publish a newsletter every month. And they have an X account. So when we look at Europe, our work area is Europe, mainly the minority languages spoken in Europe. And when you see this map with languages of Europe, you see that in most of the areas in Europe, the striped areas are areas where 2 languages are spoken. Those are mainly the areas where a minority or regional language is spoken. And you see that a large part, this is the case in a large part of Europe. And this map doesn't even contain all regional and minority languages. But we are located in Friesland, the province of Friesland, which is in the Netherlands, in the north of the Netherlands. As you can see, the red area on the map. And in our research projects, we do often compare the context in Frisian, often in educational topics or policy. We compare that to regions where another minority language is spoken. And we do that in collaboration with other institutes in Europe. So I was asked to give you a brief overview of the activities of the Mercator Research Center. As I already said, we work in a lot of European projects funded by the European Union. I will talk briefly about 3 of them. One of them is Lingotel. Here we partner up with Progressiona in Hungary and Seiti Jarna in Norway. And the aim of this project is about the retelling of traditional stories. Especially the Sami and the Roma cultures have a tradition in oral storytelling. And the aim is that in this project that students from secondary education search in their own area for regional stories, collect them and retell them in, for example, a rap, a theater play, a poem, etc. As long as it's something that has to do something with the language, because you have to express yourself in that regional language. And you find more information on this project on the website. Another project is AL+, which stands for Ownership and Leadership. It's also a project funded by Erasmus+. And here we partner up with Sidles in Portugal, the Noord University in Norway, the Resegna Academy of Technology in Latvia, and the Tallinn University in Estonia. And the goal of this project is really to support the teachers and the people in the community to create and enhance their curricula in their own regional language. And with that, they can we point them to the use of local resources and digital methods. And we created a platform, a digital platform with exercises they can do with the pupils from primary and secondary education. Currently, these exercises are now piloted and in the different communities, and soon they will be made available publicly. Also, a second goal is to develop and make available a set of digital didactic materials, and the focus on the languages within this project is also Southern Sami, the Latgalian language, the Frisian language, and Mirandés. And for Frisian has quite an infrastructure, but the other three languages are really threatened languages, and for them this platform is very important. Furthermore, our third project I will talk about is Read With Me, where Me stands for Multilingual Early Education. Here we partner up with Trinity College Dublin in Ireland, University of the Basque Country in Spain, and ATID, an audiovisual company or school in Belgium. And in Friesland, our partners are NHL Stand and University of Applied Sciences and a company called AD Games, a serious gaming company. And here it's all about interactive dialogic reading for children between 2 and 6 years old, and we try to inform the professionals working with these children how to involve the home languages in this dialogic reading. And this can be the minority languages such as Irish, Basque or Frisian, but also migrant languages. And output is a handbook with very practical advice, but also a game that aims at parents and gives them advice on how to do interactive reading with the children and include the home languages. So European project is not all we do at Mercator. We also publish many regional dossiers and wikis. If you go to our website, you will find about 60 regional dossiers on regional minority languages and how their place in the educational system in their region is. These dossiers have a fixed structure, so it's easy to compare the different regions or languages with each other. And however, for some of the languages, the regional minority languages, their place in education system is too small to write a whole dossier on them. So we also have a wiki page that contains about 30 fact sheets of very small languages with a very modest place in the educational system. Next to that, we also conduct research and write advisory reports on topics like minority languages, multilingual education, like the report on in the background on Papiamento that was written for the Academy of Papiamento in Bonaire, but also on language policy, where we conducted research and we read and studied all the reports of the Committee of Experts who comment on the use of the minority language in a country, minority languages that are acknowledged by the governments in the European Charter on Regional and Minority Languages. every 6 years, a committee of experts comes to the states and talks to the language communities in that country and sees whether the government fulfills their promises from the charter and writes a report on this. And by studying all those reports from regarding Frisian, we now have a very clear image of how Frisian is protected, what the Charter of European Regional and Minority Language has done for Frisian so far. And I already mentioned it a little bit. We, together with the network, we publish the Mercator network newsletter every month. And this does not only contain the activities of the 5 research institutes that I mentioned, but also contains a huge amount of news on minority languages and education. The last one has been published today or sent out today, but of course you can sign up if you want to know more about this or receive that letter as well. And so I would like to invite you to do that. And another task of the Mercator Research Center is to organize conferences and workshops. Like every year, we organize or co-organize with other partners a conference or workshop or seminar, and that can be here in Friesland, but it can also be at a partner institute. And this year, we will also organize a conference in Leeuwarden, in Friesland, in the Netherlands, on the policy of minority languages and multilingualism, so the use of minority languages in education, but also at home. And yearly, we, since a couple of years, 3 years, I think this year will be the 4th, we organize an online Mercator multilingualism lecture, and also that usually takes place in November. You can please keep an eye on our socials for that. So my work is, or the work of Mercator, mainly regarding policy, research and practice. We network a lot with politicians, with policymakers, not only on the local level, but sometimes also on the European level. We are in contact with people from the European Commission, for example. We sometimes conduct research for them, but also for the network to promote linguistic diversity, the NPLD. But we to gather research questions and also to put our findings into practice. We also have a lot of contact with societal organizations, for example, in Friesland, because we try to spread our products that we develop within these European projects into the schools as well. So it's always, we're always working within a triangle of research, policy and practice, and I will talk more about that during our workshop. And that was my presentation so far, and here you, should you want to be in touch, please don't hesitate to contact us or well, look us up on Facebook, X, or I still have to get used to Twitter not being X, and LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Jelske. And we are, it was very interesting and very insightful. We are going to have a break right now. And we would meet again in about 50 minutes at 3:15. And I would like to welcome everyone back. And we are going to have these 3 workshops at 3:15 in parallel. So we have prepared breakout rooms and the practicalities we are going to explain when we meet again. So see you in 50 minutes. Thank you.
Also, definitely feel free to stay and talk to each other if you would like to.
Just welcome back, everybody. We'll restart now. So yeah, I think I want to give the micro now to Marie, who explains the breakout sessions to you, how it works.
Okay, hello and welcome back, everybody. I've just opened up the breakout rooms. There are 3 different rooms you can choose from. We have 3 different sessions, as we've just mentioned earlier. We have one about an Armenian podcast called Amanamea Media, which is going to focus mostly on social media and media. We're going to have one by Mercator, which is going to focus on large-scale networking. And then the last one is by Hak and Yen about youth networking. And they're going to talk mostly about Burgenland creation and their experiences there. You can already join them. If you have any problems entering any of them, just let me know and I can send you straight there as well. So you should now have been invited to join one of them.
Thanks for being back in the general room. I would like to have a short summary from the sessions we just had, and start with the social media session. Marie, please.
I'm just going to open up my drive here. It was fascinating. I was planning on filling out 1 slide of a PowerPoint. I filled out 6, I think. So thank you very much, Maria. It was a lot of information. I'm going to see if I can share my screen as well. Okay. Yes, I think you can see my screen. Okay, so we had a very nice warm-up session where Maria asked what our superpower would be. We had a lot of creativity, curiosity, bringing people together. Maria said that one of her superpowers is organization, which I can definitely believe after all the projects that she presented. So Aromanian is a very small community. It's scattered across the Balkans, and she gave us a bit of background info on all of that as well. She also very kindly offered to answer questions about Aromanian if anybody has a question, so you will find her contacts in the end. She works for an NGO and a particular branch of that as well. This NGO and the branch, they organize a lot of festivals. So for example, a festival in the spring where people dance, and it's like 500 to 800 people, bringing together different kinds of painters, writers, actors, also youth events for people who would like to learn the language. So quite a lot. She said one of the biggest challenges is that it's difficult to raise money because it's such a small community and companies usually don't see them as the best buyers. So a lot of the action that is taking place actually comes from volunteers, and they get a lot of donations as well from private people. And some people are also under the misapprehension that the NGO gets, people who work at the NGO get money, but a lot of them are volunteers and do this in their free time. One thing we talked about is how Aromanian survived for so long. She explained that it was mainly passed on orally, that music also helped to preserve it. We talked a bit about how, and she explained that weddings are really important and that there are a lot of steps in each wedding where people explain what exactly has to be done. And whereas in Greece, mostly the rhythm and the music were preserved, in Romania, mostly the words were preserved. So that definitely helped. And there was a lot of interest from participants in the session in those wedding songs. So Maria very kindly offered to create a Google document so everybody can have access to them. And we will also link that over our Rise Up website. She also mentioned that she actually recently attended a wedding, which was very nice because it was Aromanians from all different kinds of nationalities coming together and celebrating. And then we delved into the social media. So she talked about how the average Aromanian speaker is around 35 to 40. So TikTok is not exactly the right social media to reach them. But Instagram is very useful to reach younger audiences. She also talked about how one of the campaigns, for example, was showing how a lot of people think they can speak Aromanian, but they actually speak Romanian and just attach a very particular suffix. And so one of the campaigns they did was by showing the wrong word crossed out and the right word underneath it. She mentioned a lot of other campaigns because they have done a lot of campaigns. One of the most successful campaigns actually was so successful that it was featured on various TV news channels. And by now the phrase, which I cannot pronounce, but it rhymes in Aromanian and it roughly translates to Aromanian suits you too, is now so popular that it's also shouted at weddings, so that people are encouraged to speak in Aromanian with each other. So I think that's definitely an impact on the community, which is very impressive. She also had a pass it forward campaign where you would have an object and give it to somebody off screen. And then, of course, the podcast that we mentioned. So far, there are 125 podcasts. In the end, we also talked about how I think she has 5,000 followers by now on Facebook. She talked about how these people are chosen in order to make sure that both well-known people in the community and not so well-known people are represented, and how sometimes it can have a huge impact choosing somebody who is known to a very dedicated minority. For example, the mayor of a small town, who after they interviewed him, his appearance led to a lot of people liking their pages and following their content. And then finally, she explained the structure of the podcast, so that it was a very small team, just by good friends of hers as well and colleagues, and that actually over the pandemic it started, that they used Zoom, and that was very successful. And by now, they usually do live transmissions, and by now people are so looking forward to those live transmissions and are anticipating them so much that if they're a bit late, they get comments asking them why it's not happening, which I think is, again, a clear indicator of success. So Maria, I think you're definitely doing something right. Thank you so much for this workshop. It was very, very interesting, and I will hand it over to the next one.
Yes, which is, thank you very much for your summary, Marie. And also Maria, of course, for the session. And the next one is, I don't know, either Jenny or Violetta.
I'm fine to do it if you want.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Maybe someone could share their screen. I also have my own notes because I'm just making lots of notes in lots of different places. Okay. Nice. Okay, maybe it could be a little bit bigger. So we had a session from Vera, who's already had to leave. So yeah, but it's really good that she could join us. She is a Burgenland Croat living in Vienna, and she joined to tell us a little bit about youth networking, because we already heard about the networking in the frame of Jen from Christoph at the beginning. So this was like specifically the networking approach that HAK, the Hrvatski Akademski Klub, the Burgenland Croatian Academic Club, are doing. I still can't see the text. I'm afraid it's still very small. If you could zoom in. But maybe I'll begin by saying that Vera introduced herself. She's a Burgenland Croat, as I say. Burgenland Croatian is spoken across Austria, Hungary, Croatia, and Slovakia. And she made a very interesting point that they do not want to be counted when somebody asked how many numbers there were, but she said around 30,000, realistically. Burgenland Croatian is its own language. It is standardized. It has a dictionary. The problem is, of course, like many minoritized languages, is that there are not enough schools and courses, so on, in order to learn it. They also have 2 different dialects. So Vera went on to actually talk about some events which is organized by HAK, the academic society. And the first one of these was Jelske Dijkstra, which means language without borders. And it is basically a festival that happens every summer, I think in August, which connects the Burgenland Croatian youth from Austria, Hungary, and Slovakia. And she also made a very interesting point that this is the only connecting language of these places. So it brings people together from these 3 countries, and it is specifically aimed at young people in order to better their language skills. She is the organizational team along with Teresa, who is maybe still also in this meeting. It's all about language learning. They have different classes from beginners to advanced level. And of course, it's a festival. It's also about having fun and being by the sea and enjoying time together and expanding the network in this way. There are many media and creative outlets which come from the event. For example, podcasts. They also have a podcast workshop. There is readings of poems in the Burgenland Croatian language and playing of the tamburica, which is the traditional Burgenland Croatian instrument. And it was kind of reinstated after 30 years, this event, with the need for more youth-focused events, because there are many events in Burgenland Croatian, focused for Burgenland Croatians, but for children or for adults. So they found the gap for the need for more young people. And she went on to talk about Damladina, which translates the Festival of Youth, which is another festival that HAK is also organizing. And it's like a very big music festival for the Burgenland Croatian people. And also it is primarily focused on Burgenland Croatian music. And once again, there is like a lot of traveling from country to country. It takes place in a different place every year between Burgenland, Slovakia, Vienna, Austria in general, and Hungary. And the same as how Yen works, they find a host organization, and then they work with the host organization to organize it together. And their common connection is the focus on youth and the focus on traditional music. There's also other things that come off this. For example, there was a protest where bilingual village signs were instated in Burgenland Croatian and German into towns and villages in Burgenland. And Vera also talked about the importance of having enough like documentation and merge of these events in order to make them more visible and to get people curious about what is going on. Exactly. And the events themselves, like in the Burgenland Croatian community made by HAK, like they do begin their own network. Like they begin, like they are the catalyst for more networks and connections coming. They kind of provide the groundwork, and then many WhatsApp groups and journeys and friendships like also come from this. So yes, as I wrote here, language improvement, outreach, language support, friendships, and feedback on each other's work. There's also Novi Glas, just quickly, that is the publication, print and online, of also organized by HAK and writers and contributors from HAK. They also have a podcast, which appeals also to the majority community because the podcast is in German and talks a lot about Burgenland Croatian history. And there are also calendars and other bits of merch. Yeah. I'm going to wrap up because I don't know how much time I have, but basically the takeaways from Vera and from other interesting questions we had in our group was that sustainable activism is still being learned and needs to be focused on to succeed. And I think one of the problems in the young people's communities is that, you know, they are all doing voluntary work all the time. They have full-time jobs. They're really struggling to just keep the momentum and keep the language going. So it's also about just being able to take care of themselves at the same time as organizing these incredible events. And yes, that they always have the feeling that if one person cannot like contribute, that there's somebody else in the minority or in the organization who can take over and try and move the projects forward that go on. And yes, there will be, I will give the email address of Vera and also of Yen if there's any more questions about HAK or Yen in general. And youth work in general, we're happy to answer your questions. So thank you again to Vera for being here, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you also from my side. Marie, you can continue the slideshow. Yeah. So, okay, I'll do it. No problem.
Apologies, I think my PowerPoint is not up to date.
Yeah, sure. Here we go. 1 second. So I hope I didn't miss anything essential. We started off with an introduction round, and it turned out that we were quite a colorful bunch of people, and with lots of interesting backgrounds. And then Jelske was also showing us a little bit about the work of Mercator. She went a little bit more in detail. So the most important thing was that Mercator always works within this triangle. She also presented before: policy, research, and practice. And then she was introducing a project to us, which started off with some research on language attitudes and new speakers of Frisian. Which the result of this was that first language speakers of Frisian were seen. Sorry, I lost my thread now. They had a video campaign where they first showed some videos of first language speakers, and then the experience of new speakers. And the experiences of the new speakers was that people would pretty soon switch to Dutch as soon as they realize that the new speakers were no native speakers. And so there was an own campaign on social media, and where people were asked to upload their own videos with their own experiences. Please correct me, Jelske, if I'm wrong. The upload with own videos was not so successful. So they started a second part with sending postcards to the new speakers to complement them, which was, on the other hand, very successful. Yes. So, and it also influenced, in the end, the recent language policy where Frisian was taken care of in a better way. She also introduced a project of Mercator, which is called NROPE. This is a network which is still active, and which is supposed to create a network for young researchers, and yeah.
Yeah, they still organize meetings every now and then, not as often anymore as when the project was alive, because it has finished in 2023, if I'm not incorrect. But they still had a meeting like online 2 weeks ago. Well, please go to the website if you want to know more about meetings in the future of nroop.eu. There are online meetings where you can mingle with each other, with other junior researchers, well, because every researcher has the same challenges regarding multilingualism or in their studies, so that their research. So that's why that network was set up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you, because I mean, I have a little cold, and sometimes my concentration is not that well, unfortunately. Jelske also gave some tips on how to get yourself involved into into research and networks, especially, and how to be also successful in writing those proposals and creating the network and sustaining the network. And we got introduced to some other very interesting project. This is an internship at Mercator, where they work on Wiki Women. And the idea is to have, on the one hand, more information on women on Wikipedia, and on the other hand, also to have this information in minority languages, which would be achieving two goals on one activity. And yeah, then there is also a brochure on Creative Europe and Erasmus Plus projects, which has been published recently. This one is with a focus on projects including regional and minority languages, which is very interesting. Maybe do you have the link for it? Yeah, great, thank you.
I've added the link to that report written by the European Commission, and it contains all kinds of projects funded by Erasmus Plus and also by Creative Europe, in which the focus was totally on regional minority languages, or in which amongst other languages, regional minority languages were involved. And it's a very nice report just to see what's going on already, but also to get inspired to, well, maybe set up your own projects. So I would definitely just skim through this document. Very nice.
Thank you. Yes, and the last recommendation she had for us was the Eurobarometer, the last ones, where they also asked for the acceptance of regional and minority languages. And there has been a great acceptance for those languages, and which is also a good argument for approaching politicians. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add something, Jelske.
No, that's very good. Indeed, this barometer has been published by the end of May, also by the European Commission. And it's a large-scale research on how many languages Europeans learn, etc. So it has a lot of other interesting information as well. But one of the questions was, do you think it's important to protect the regional minority languages? And 84 of the Europeans, of the respondents, said yes. So it's a very nice outcome, I think.
I agree. So, if you've still got the energy, I want to open the floor for any questions and answers you might have. And yes, I also want to have a follow-up email to all the participants of today, where we add all the links and the email addresses if wanted. So are there any questions, any comments from your side? If not, one second. Then I'll go back to my...
Maybe before we move on to the announcements on Gisela's side, I would have a favor to ask. Could I ask people to just very quickly turn on their cameras so I could take a screenshot for social media? That'd be very helpful. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, of course, only if it works.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna, yep. No, oh, even more. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, give me your best language smile. And then in 1, 2, 3, Ruth, you can clap now. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, so I switch now to our last point. We are going to have a summary article in the meeting today, which is going to be published on our website. So you can reread it whenever you want. Then, as I already said in the beginning, the recording of the workshop will be posted on YouTube, and we also want to add the websites of the presenters to the description of the video. And yep. Then we also want to point out that we've got regular newsletters with updates. We've got also prepared a questionnaire now on Slido, which we would like to ask you to fill in, and which Marie will introduce right afterwards. And there is also the possibility to have a link to the newsletter registration. And then we are going to have another networking event on media, the role of media within language revitalization in the beginning of September. And we are going to let you know soon about more details on this. Yes, and then there are our possibilities to connect as well. And, yes,
Okay.
Marie,
Okay.
please.
Okay, then I will now open up the final questionnaire and survey. It would be fantastic if you had a moment to fill it out. It's just so we know what you liked and if you have any suggestions for future events as well.
Okay,
It should be here now. It's not here? Oh, okay, wait. But I think I figured out now why it didn't work out last time. I think I know it. I think I've cracked the code. I think it's if you leave Slido alone for too long, it gets bored and disappears. So you need to reload it. Okay.
Jenny has also raised her hand. Maybe in the meantime.
I just wanted to say quickly about the feedback as well. Vera also just sent me a message because she already had to go. So she just said if there is any feedback, positive, critical, anything, she would really appreciate that. So just in general for these events, like it is really, really helpful for us and also for the speakers and the session leaders if they hear any positives or also good critical feedback. So yeah, we really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Okay, Marie, how is Slido?
Slido is sliding very slowly. It is loading. It's telling me something unexpected happened, so that's brilliant. Okay, give me 2 minutes and I'll try to figure this out. In the meantime, because I know what the last question is, could you please also write thank you in your main language variety in the chat? Then we can use that afterwards to make a little header of the event.
Okay, Jenny?
Oh, sorry, my hand is down. That's it.
Okay, fine. Well, thank you everybody from my side for contributions and participating. And yeah.
Yeah, I can also just add, if you have anything to tell us, either